This is an SM Media production.
Hi folks, and welcome to episode 3 of SM Media's Road to Cheltenham 2023. I'm Scott McPike. It's an absolute pleasure to be your host as always, and it is always a pleasure to be joined by from the Scottish Daily Mail, Calum McClurkin. Calum, welcome to the show. How are we?
Hi there, yeah, all good here. It was air yesterday, so watching my first kind of jumps race in the flesh, which was always quite good, and I think it was the weekend card was probably the best we've seen yet. So yeah, it's getting there for sure.
It's getting there, yeah. Good. It was a good card yesterday here, actually. Any eye catchers?
I thought Kinfunnock was pretty impressive, even though it was 1-5, but it did look like quite a stylish horse. Stuart Crawford and Darryl Jacob had a really fine day there yesterday. Kind of dominated the card, so it was good. Particularly the early races were pretty decent.
Yeah, Jacob had 4 winners, didn't he?
He did, yeah. He's an unbelievable run. I think he's won his last 6 or something.
Yeah, good for he's in good form. You mentioned there obviously about the weekend we had. I watched the weekend. I was unwell all weekend and saw every race. So certainly that's the advantage. I know you'll agree. It's one of the advantages of being unwell. You can see everything.
Yeah, you can see everything, monitor everything, and kind of look across the markets. Some markets have moved quite significantly in open grade and in novice company. So there's been a fair few that have come out, and even preliminary entries that haven't been taken up. You do get a clear indication of where they might be planning down the line.
Absolutely. We'll get straight into our questions. One question was kind of dominating I think everybody's kind of Ante Post kind of shows and things like that, but we'll certainly answer it as well. Is it unfair to rank Constitution Hill as an all-time great? Does he need to win a champion hurdle to be in that conversation? Calum, we obviously are talking about the great Constitution Hill who just looked, there's so many words you could have for it, but monstrous and flawless come to mind for me. Just a dominating performance in the fighting fifth. That question, though, it's an interesting one. I know he's been given I think 174, which puts him in line with likes of Hurricane Fly and Istabrack. Does he need to win a champion hurdle to enter the conversation with them, or is he already there?
Of course he does. He needs to win a champion hurdle. He just needs to keep doing what he's doing, But if he does that, he will win one. And then it was a type of performance that kind of elevated the conversation from is this horse worthy of being a champion hurdle favourite to could this horse be an all-time great? The answer is still going to obviously be up in the air until he does the same again at Kempton and the same again at Cheltenham. It's just basic as that. He's open to so much progress and the potential's there. He looks completely flawless. He just needs to do it, and in time he will. No doubt he will. But yeah, he is definitely. There's no doubt that he's kind of 170 rated in my mind, but pushing further than that, he would need to kind of just do it at Cheltenham and do it at Kempton.
Have you ever been as impressed with a horse and after 4 starts and the way it jumps a hurdle? Because that's the thing that jumps. It's just the way he makes ground. Just everything's so effortless.
I think everything that he does, in the jumping department, just the way he relaxes, his temperament, he's easy to switch off. He can come from the front, he can probably come from the back. He's versatile in terms of grounds. Just power, athleticism, jumping, it's all there. He can mind himself, he pull up practically the line. His performances are backed up by the clock. He's yardsticks. It's not as if John Bond's come out and done nothing. It's not as if Epitaunt hasn't done anything. It's very hard to kind of pick holes in him. It's just time at the moment that he's just got to keep doing it race after race and season after season to be just considered as an all-time great. In terms of pure talent at this stage, I think he's pretty close towards an Istabrack already. I'm a big Hurricane Fly fan, probably similar to the Hurricane Flies and the Faheens of the world at the moment, than elevating him to that level. But I think the champion hurdle, even though Honeysuckle's been brilliant and very consistent, I do think it does need a little bit of kind of explosive stardust. I think he's got that. He's just very quick and very slick.
Do you think as sports fans as well, like maybe that's a kind of different conversation, but do you think when we see something great, we like straight away we think we like bring ourselves to think, try and talk ourselves out that we're watching something special? Do you think we need to see it 2 or 3 times? We're like, I'm trying to think, when Sprinter Sacre won that Tingle Creek, we knew there, just the way he done that we knew there was a potential superstar, but he went on to win a champion chase, so automatically that was his kind of him secured as an all-time great kind of thing. Like, do you think that's what we find here? Well, like, at sport as well, like there's a lot of golfers, a lot of boxers we see that they start explosively, but they need to win that major just to cement themselves as an absolute great kind of figure.
This is cement your legacy, really, in the general pantheon of greats of your sport, really. But yeah, I think there's no doubting that he's a bit of a superstar at the moment. Just think that he's just got to do it, win the really big grade ones, and just keep doing what you're doing, and you'll go up the ladder, and then the comparisons will start all over again. It just happens in like every sport, really. The Don Run plan, if you want to look really, really further forward, champion hurdle, then go novice chase, and then he could even champion chase and then go up and trip over open company and have a crack at a Gold Cup.
Do you think there's a thing as well? Like, do you think there's a thing as well with him? Like, I know when you talk about like Ante the Brave, he won 3 champion hurdles, and I don't know if ever the plan was to go novice chasing. Like Faheen, for example, he went novice chasing late. Do you think if he wins 1, they'll be tempted to go 2 or 3, or do you think it's always a plan? Because I know you were of the opinion last year he was a chaser in the making, and Ian Henderson said in his interview he could take him chasing tomorrow. Do you think it's always the plan to go chasing at some point, or do you think they could just sweep up 3 or 4 champion hurdles?
Probably could sweep up 3 or 4 champion hurdles, but the plan, I think, is always to go chasing. I think his age kind of, then he won the Supreme as a 5-year-old. I think if he was a 6-year-old, they'd probably have sent him over fences, and I think they'd like to split Constitution Hill and John Bond up a little bit, and by one a season back, that kind of helps in that. So they're not kind of clashing. They couldn't avoid the clash with Epitone. Ultimately, they might be able to do so at Cheltenham by sending her to the Mayor's Hurdle. Yeah,
possibly. Yeah, I think we'll touch a bit more on Constitution Hill and later on in the recap. Next question: who is right in the war of words between Gordon Elliott and Paul Nicholls? If you've seen this, Gordon Elliott I think he's accused the UK trainers of kind of ducking and diving each other, and Paul Nicholls has come out in defence saying that they're not frightened of anyone. They try and avoid running against they're not ducking and diving to try and avoid running against each other. But a bit of a weird war of words. I've saw arguments both for and against both parties. Who do you kind of come down with?
Neither of them, to be honest. It's a little bit of a kind of a weird spat.
Yeah.
There is that kind of, you can see Gordon Elliott's maybe trying to say in the ducking and diving part. It's just, I think the calendar for how many horses at the top, particularly at the top level that we've got, it's not that competitive enough, and therefore your best can kind of afford to dive. I mean, I don't think John Bond's going to be meeting anything really of significance until the Irish come over.
Yeah.
For instance, is that partly to do with ducking and diving over here? Not really, because I just don't think there's anything that can hold the candle to him over here. It's part of the problems of calendar and part of the problems of lack of quality. I could see why people like Paul Nicholls are a little bit miffed by it, because he doesn't really do that too often. Sometimes at Cheltenham he does, because he goes to Aintree instead. I think that's kind of more mapping it out for the horse rather than design ducking and diving. But yeah, I can see both sides of the coin a little bit, but I don't think it's that much of a debate to get too serious in, to be honest.
I think I kind of see the point of view that Gordon Elliott has, like, and I kind of was looking at this the other day, like, Paul Nicholls realistically now has 3 realistic chances for Cheltenham if he wanted to. He could run Brave Man's Game in the Gold Cup, he could run Hermes Allen in the Ballymore, and he could probably run McFabulous in the Brown Advisory. Is he going to run all three? And I think that kind of is the point Elliott's making. Like, Gordon Elliott has most of his horses kind of top novices earmarked for the festival. Does Paul Nicholls, who's the UK champion trainer, I think that's maybe the one kind of way of it. I would maybe agree with him a wee bit.
You've also got Gordon Elliott that's probably having to bump into a brilliant Willie Mullins horse every second week. I don't think it's kind of a Cheltenham related factor. I think it's a calendar. I think, sometimes here in Britain you've got 3 or 4 jumps meeting a day that are not properly filled out, and you can use and you can really find comfortable soft openings. Well, in Ireland sometimes you only get 1 or 2 race meetings a week, and Willie Mullins has got about 40-50 runners that are potentially you've also got the smaller stables who they've got nowhere else to go, so they have to go there as well. So you're always going to get fairly decent fields in Ireland, and therefore you'll have to run them, because if you don't in that set date, it might be 4 or 5 days away to another opportunity, and then if other people are thinking along the similar lines to you, you might be balloted out, for instance. So yeah, and they have bigger strings. They probably have more horses, so that means that you have to run them a bit more often, more frequently, just to stay on top of plans. Yes, I just think it's a bit of a calendar issue in terms of, and that presents probably too many options, and maybe for certain trainers in Britain to duck and dive in certain divisions.
Yeah. Final question: is Zarak the Brave a Triumph Hurdle contender? Zarak the Brave obviously was quite impressive for Willie Mullins on his debut. I think he's declared. I don't think he's declared. I think he's definitely entered in the Grade 2 at Fairyhouse, which is always very telling for who's the kind of one of the top Irish contenders. Do you like him? Do you think it could be a possible Triumph contender?
I do. Yeah, he's definitely up there. He's I think there's 4 or 5 that are probably in the conversation early doors. And as the market kind of implies, none of them have blown anyone away.
Yeah.
But they're definitely all in the frame. That Grade 2 is going to be, I'd imagine, very informative. Probably the best juvenile race at the moment. Yeah, he's a definite contender. He jumps quite effectively, and he's pretty forward, which most of Willie Mullins' string probably aren't at the moment, that have got kind of lofty aspirations. So yeah, I think he's definitely one to consider.
We will move on now to take a look at the recap. We will start on Thursday at Thurles. One horse to mention, Ely de Tomps, was quite impressive in a maiden hurdle, won by 10 lengths, now 20s for the Supreme. Was 4th in last year's Triumph Hurdle, I believe. Jumped potentially right, but potentially an improver for the future. What do you think? Is he a Supreme player?
Supreme or Ballymore, said Patrick Mullins. I think you probably need to find a little bit more, but definitely what last season, what he did. I think he's settling. He can improve. You can kind of maybe look at similar rank to maybe Gaelic Warrior.
Yeah.
In terms of what he does, from coming from 45, but still being a maiden, but racing really hot races. And I think the Triumph was a good race last year. It was an encouraging start to novice company anyway. He will need to find more, but yeah, you just have to wait and see what his next step's going to be. Maybe something Leopardstown Christmas.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, we'll move on to Friday. A few to mention at Newbury who were quite impressive. One very big Supreme player for me, I think, could be Jet Powered. 6-1 now, comfortably second favourite in every market. Impressive performance from Nicky Henderson and the Donnellys. Quite keen, as you can imagine, a kind of first time out over hurdles can be. Jumped a wee bit right, but I think that'll get sorted out. I really liked this horse, actually. I was hearing a lot of good reports that he could be a bit special, and he certainly looked as if they certainly showed he could be the start of something. Yeah,
he's 16-1 beforehand, and I did fully expect him to be halved, and that's exactly what happened in the back of it. There was money for Nicholls' horse overnight as well.
Yeah.
And the Skelton horse isn't bad either. I think it was a decent enough maiden. There was certainly no ducking and diving that. I think Jet Powered is probably pretty good. I think you can get further in time pretty reminiscent of Shishkin, to be honest.
Yeah.
The way he goes through races. Yeah, he was impressive. Step up in grade next.
Yeah, I think it could be potentially maybe the same line of track as kind of John Bon.
I think that's what he does. You know, I think that's probably. I think he'll be campaigned as Nicky Henderson's best 2 mile novice hurdle.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's that. He might well be a very big rival for Facile Vega.
Yeah, possibly, yeah. Sebastopol beat Stage Star in the Grade 2. I didn't think Stage Star get going at all. Very disappointed with him. Sebastopol, I think he's honest enough, but is he going to compete at Cheltenham?
No, pretty poor race. I'm disappointed in Stage Star. There might be another wind issue at play there. And
Yeah.
he's had setbacks before, and it didn't look like his true running. He jumped okay enough, but he didn't find anything for pressure. Good win, good Grade 2 for Sebastopol, though. To pick these prizes up is always useful for Tom Lacey and Stan Shepard.
Yeah, definitely. The long walk hurdle was it brought an exciting finish. 2 10-year-old gunslingers going at it, but Champ won over Paisley Park on the day. It was a really good finish, actually. Two honest horses just going at it. Paisley Park just never gives up, but Champ won the day, 16-1 for the Stairs. Is he a player in a Stairs hurdle? Is he going to potentially compete? Was last year maybe his chance?
I take more from Paisley Park in relation to the Stairs hurdle than Champ.
Yeah.
He always goes well fresh, you know, he's cherry right, you know, the money ploughed in for him, you know, this was his day. Paisley Park seemed the opposite. He always seems to need his first run. The ground looked a bit quick for him. The money wasn't there for him either, really. He was still kind of a bit of a, you know, not you know, rogue outsider because a few came out, but Prosima didn't fire, so it was down up to the two.
Yeah.
Proving Grade 1 form at the end of the day. They've both shown they've retained all their ability, but you know, Flo and Porter had them in their place last year fairly comfortably. But if they go harder and in softer ground, the Paisley Park around 20-25-1 as an each way player isn't bad when there's not much new blood coming into that Stairs hurdle division.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it was a really good finish as well. I took a lot of Paisley Park. It was a weird Paisley Park run as well because there's always a wee bit in the race where he goes into that flat spot, but he just travelled and travelled. He never looked as if he was behind the bridle at any point.
Yeah, he was a bit behind, but even he was travelling quite sweetly.
Yeah,
Which is a bit strange, but no, it was a really good performance. So it was a great race as well because you were kind of. You had asked it last week that kind of fell apart. And you were thinking, oh, is the same going to happen at Newbury? But it wasn't the case, thankful.
Yeah. Saturday at Newbury, quite a few to mention here. The first one was a really impressive Nicky Henderson mare, Lucia, who made her debut over hurdles. Very, very nice performance. Jumped lovely, strong travel, nice performance. Fours for the mare's novice. Impressed?
Another highly regarded Nicky Henderson novice. Her bumper was a very kind of taking performance last year that put her towards the front of the male novices division anyway beforehand. She just confirmed that very good impression. She's very smart. 92.41 for a race of that nature is very short. We've seen hot spots turned over in it fairly regularly in recent years. And we will need to kind of see more when she's up in grade next time out to kind of really justify a short price because I think Henry de Bromhead and Willie Mullins will definitely have a few that are pretty smart.
Could she be Supreme type?
No, he won't do that.
No, think so.
No chance. He doesn't run mares and that race. He'll be mares novices all the way.
Next one, McFabulous beat Time Hill in the John Francombe, now 12-1 for the Brown Advisory. It's the best I've ever seen McFabulous jump. Like not just fences, the best he's jumped, the best he just looked proper like a good horse on Saturday. Time Hill, I was so disappointed in Time Hill. Just first time out, I thought he was really good over fences. I thought the second time he was very novice-y. I just thought he just looked very amateur, to be honest. But McFabulous was really good, I thought.
Yeah, Time Hill very scruffy. Never really kind of looked at ease at any point. McFabulous, he's better chaser than hurdler. He's had a few of his kind of wee niggly problems in terms of ground. They have to mind them. But yeah, we've kind of said for a while, you know, Cato Star at Kempton would be his race.
Yeah.
That seems to be the case. he'd go there, and then he'd go to Aintree and maybe take in Punchestown if he is improving that much. But he's definitely not going to. I'd be very surprised if he turns up at Cheltenham.
I doubt he'd turn up at Cheltenham, but he certainly wouldn't be out the running if he did turn up at Cheltenham. A big horse for you landed, Zanza, 12-length winner, a horse you've followed for a while, sticking by the faithful.
Yes, followed off several cliffs. Handicapped horse and training finally delivered. And he basically just operates really well at Newbury. Cheap pieces, driven out a little bit more. And he could continue improving from it. He did hit a flat spot and niggled along, and he pearled away quite well. Maybe been running him the wrong trip. That's kind of rushed his fencing. He's lost confidence. Back up in trip, he did quite well. I wouldn't rule him out for something like a plate down the line, because he could clearly operate between mid 140s at least. He got a change down. But no, he's a standing dish around Newbury. He's a lot more comfortable there, and that might be the case at the flat track. Just suits him so much.
Yeah, first street won the Jerry Fielding as well, second in last year's county hurdle. I thought it was a nice performance. He's maybe not going to be a graded horse, but he's certainly another dart for Henderson to throw at potentially a handicap down the line.
Yeah, I mean, you throw him in a contenders hurdle, I think will be the plan, and see where you go from there. I think that's what they're going to do. If the champion hurdle was a wide open, he wouldn't be without a chance. But I mean, it's very red hot. It looks very competitive, very select, and yeah, maybe the grade 1 in Aintree is kind of more realistic for him. But he ran well at Cheltenham. He's now going to have to step out of handicaps and kind of strut his stuff in graded company. He's capable of making some sort of impression.
Yeah, Lamilos won the Coral Gold Cup. The gamble landed the day for the Skeltons. I know they were very sweet on him all day. Very wild race. Remastered ran a good race as well. What was your kind of eye catchers and thoughts of the race?
I think the big eye catcher's probably Corrick Rambler in fourth, who was at the back of the TV, turning for home and then stayed on. And he's just there's so many comparisons that you can see with his running style and what class he's got, and his stamina, that he's very one for Arthur mould. And he's very much a Grand National type, and he's going to be campaign like that. So 20-1 for him. Ante Post for that. I don't think it's too bad, because he's going to get in, he's going to go there, he'll stay. Grounds doesn't really matter too much. It's a safe cut would be fine. Should take to the fences. He might go to Warwick for the classic chase and then go straight there. It's all kind of really mapped out from Lovely. I don't see many negatives with him.
You backed him?
I have, yeah. But back to him earlier than that. I mean, he's been mapped out all season for. I think it was 33s kicking out at the start of the season. But, I wouldn't put anyone off 20s either. I think he's probably kind of the obvious kind of starting point for that race now. And I think it's definitely red hot form. Jericho Rock kind of brought in the last season's Ultima form to the table and ran well. Remastered always runs well there. Ground maybe a bit quick for him, but certainly did himself justice. And the winner's progressing very, very well indeed. Whether he'll go, you'll be looking at nationals for possibly for him as well. So disappointing 3 under through 5.
It was. It certainly had an impact though in the end.
But played a hand in the race regardless, wasn't he? I was still kind of like transfixed by him. What was the front rather than watching much else. But I know it's definitely solid form, and they went really quick with Bustleton and Ansem up front, didn't they? And even at a track like Newbury, where you want a prominent position all the time, it was still a bit too fast. He ran respectable races as well, so there's tons that you could take in it. It looked like a good race.
Yeah, it did that. Amarillo Sky's now 2 out of 2 this season, now up to 151 for the Tizards. A good performance, actually. Where do you think's next for Amarillo Sky? Is he a potential handicap player at the festival?
Well, he's rising up the handicap, and you think he's going to be too high, but Sky Pirate and the lights have defied that before. He's just improving, and he's just fulfilling the potential that we kind of saw glimmers last season. I think they'll probably still just about persist with handicaps for the moment. If he wins another couple like he's doing at the moment, then he'll definitely have to try graded company at some point. Maybe he could find a kind of one of these soft Grade 2 2 mile chases that he's probably good enough to plunder one of them.
Yeah. On to Newcastle. Obviously, Constitution Hill won the fighting fifth. 8 to 11, 4 to 6 in places for the champion hurdle. There's not much we haven't said already, but is there anything kind of that you haven't said yet that you would like to say about this potential monster?
Yeah, he broke the track record, didn't he? Which he did, which he's done before. Another track, just his fourth run. He had the run of the race. He started to quicken when Epitort made a mistake.
Yeah.
And that was a bit decisive. So maybe that flattered him a touch in terms of winning distance, because Aidan Coleman wasn't hard on Epitort, and she didn't run to her mark. To be clear about that, you can't. RPR's going to give like a 176 or something. That means Epitort's running to her mark. That wasn't the case. So I mean, give Epitort maybe £7 off her best of 150, and you put Constitution Hill around at 170.
Yeah.
But he's open to so much more as well. You know, he wasn't extending the line, but he still broke the clock in the last mile. He's very, very good, and he get better as the race went on. You could criticise some of the rides in behind, why we give him such a soft lead, and Not So Sleepy, I think, was ridden very bizarrely.
I thought that was strange.
He's usually ridden more forcefully than that, but that's just really kind of small fry trying to pick something out of the winner. Could he be a touch flat? Well, no, because he'd so much left in the tank, but an Epitort ran okay. Interested where they go Christmas with her, or maybe try Ireland just instead, just for something different.
I highly doubt they're taking Constitution Hill to Ireland. I know it was mentioned. They'll never do that.
Yeah, I thought they might do that with Epitort, but they might take him to Punchestown at the end of the season. But it was, you can't fault what he did.
No,
it was really spectacular. It was kind of a bit of a wow moment.
It's similar to maybe Flightline this year as well, where you just watch something, you're just mesmerised by the performance.
Yeah, particularly the end of it. Yeah, it was. I mean, 3-2 out. You know, just jump along and you think, oh well, the race is won. He's going to stay him in the last. No, it just keeps plowing on, and it was relentless. It was very, very impressive. It was
amazing. It was amazing. Another horse that caught the eye of former Cheltenham winner Lawn Press. 8 to 1 now for the Gold Cup. One gamely off a top weight of 164. Did this prove his claims that he could be a King George and Gold Cup contender?
Yes, he had to win it. Definitely a King George player if it rains enough. If it rains sufficiently enough, I would probably back him. Given the news about Tornado Flyer being out,
yeah,
Mullins probably having no runners at all. Takes a bit of the gloss of that off. It was a decent race. I mean, the second was very well handicapped, in form, on a roll, into overdrive. He's a decent horse, but just that moment of class that he couldn't go with Long Press, and there was a lot more in the tank as well.
Yeah, there was.
He didn't really need to kind of go through the gears that much. He just kind of kept holding and holding and holding. Happy Go Lucky ran well as well in third.
Mm-hmm.
I think second and third are interesting. They're interesting handicap projects down the line. Into overdrive, maybe a Kim Muir or something like that. Happy Go Lucky might have another go at the Ultima. Decent horses that he's put away there pretty easily. I would think 71 for the Gold Cup might be a bit too short. He might need it soft, but he's in line with Protectorate in terms of improving, and they have to be seriously respected. And Britain's got two very solid Gold Cup chances.
Yeah, definitely. Gordon Parton Saturday, Classic Gateway won a hot beginner's chase. Actually beat Manila Kakuna. What I Want was second. Journey With Me fell just before the end. I don't think Journey With Me was getting to them anyway. But Classic Gateway, it's a dear purchase by Cheveley Park, and he's now favourite for the Brown Advisory. He's now sitting about 8s. Could be a potential decent, certainly a better chaser than Hurdler.
Definitely chaser, like the Chief of Park makeup. They will improve for fencing. They always try and buy these Gold Cup types, so no surprise he's come good. But yeah, and he was probably the one that needed that looked to need the run most, but he did kind of like the kind of soft going there as well. I think Manila Kakuna second ran well. I just think he got a bit tired on the ground. He jumped quite neatly. I think he might be more of a Turner's horse.
Okay.
I don't think he needs a trip. I think he's got a bit of speed. I would try and campaign at him over 2.5 miles. And the third what they want probably isn't quite graded class yet at that level, but he'll find easier races than that. So he'll pick up a beginner's chase as well. It was a good looking race.
Yeah, it was actually. I think there's a few to take away from it. Another race there's a few to take away from. I know the way you're thinking, beat Imagine and Spanish Harlem, now 25 for the Supreme. I think the first three home in this could be potential players for the future.
Yeah, I think the third might develop into the best.
I think he could be a Bartlett horse, actually.
Yeah, he looks like a steer, doesn't he? I think Millerman's there's quite a few of those types. There's a Lesnigar Fortune, Madman's Game. I think they could be steers in the making.
We will move into Sunday in Navan. Comfort Zone was now kind of second favourite, 12-1 for the Triumph Hurdle. Promising display, 1/6 lengths. It was a pretty good race, actually. The Cal was the favourite. I think a lot of people were looking at, but didn't really run great. Comfort Zone for Joseph O'Brien. Are you impressed?
Yes, Takai didn't quite see it out. The second for Gordon Elliott looks a potential Boodle's horse to me down the line. And yeah, I think the winners probably produced the best juvenile performance so far that we've seen in Comfort Zone. I think, and I think Joseph O'Brien has quite a few that have shown smart early signs of potentially being Triumph horses. So I think he's kind of the leader in that juvenile kind of pack at the moment. It was an impressive performance, travelled in it well, jumped quite well, but there's still enough to build on. So yeah, he's hoping to improve it as well. Yeah, at the moment, if you had a free bet in the Triumph, you'd probably have to back him.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a potential good horse for the Triumph Hurdle. Joseph O'Brien's obviously got a great record in it with the likes of Ivanovic Korbutov and sadly Sir Eric, but he knows how to get them to that race, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's just his kind of thing. Ian O'Brien did it beforehand. Yeah, he can just kind of map them out, and he has a very select kind of jumping string this year, and you can see that by the likes of Banbridges and Midnight Runs and Bustletons, horses like that that are really well planned, well thought out seasons ahead with them. So it's interesting to see how he's going to split them up in terms of the juveniles. As you'd imagine, some might be held back for a Boodles or handicap comes, some might stay in Ireland, and his best ones will go for the Triumph.
Yeah, absolutely. Another horse that really caught the eye was Grangeclare West for Cheveley Park, 4-1 now for the Albert Bartlett. A really, really strong performance, travelled well, jumped pretty good as well. Didn't look short of gears either, 4-1 for the Bartlett. I don't know if that's maybe too short at this time of the year for a race like that, but he's certainly one to keep an eye on.
It's ludicrously short for the Albert Bartlett, 4-1. I think he will go Ballymore anyway, because
he could very, very easily.
He's a lot quicker than people make out. I think he's more than just kind of a bit of a plodder. He's got a bit of tactical speed. I think the Ballymore's a more viable race for him at the moment. I think there's plenty of depth potentially to an Albert Bartlett. And I can't see why he's 4s for that and 8 or 9s to the Ballymore. I'd rather back him for the Ballymore than that. But the time wasn't actually that great on the clock. Visually, it looked very good, but the time didn't quite stack up. I think he's short enough, given the history as well, his profile.
Yeah,
put him back in spring ground, he might get found out. He might not even go. So I think he's a bit short.
Next one, the first Ante Post burn of the season for me. American Mike was beaten in the Monks Field by Don Rising, who I thought jumped very poorly for most of the race, but still done pretty well to win. Start with Don Rising. Were you impressed with how well he finished the race?
Yeah, he kind of came through and picked up the pieces a little bit, didn't he? But none of these jumped particularly well.
No.
American Mike has a dirty scope, so that might be an excuse.
I hope so, yeah.
And they went pretty hard on bottomless ground, and it might have done him in a little bit, but yeah, you can't not help to be a bit disappointed by him at least, and that's probably led to people backing Grange Clare West instead, just mainly partly because the Monksfield fell down quite a lot, and the maiden looked a warm one, but he's worth another chance. I think maybe kind of try and get him back. Do you try and find one of these grade 3s again, or do you kind of go for a Lawlers and Ace instead?
Yeah,
I wouldn't entirely write him out of it, but dirty scope is enough of an excuse to maybe forgive him. So maybe 12s, 14s, yeah, it might be a bit big.
I wouldn't jump back in him though until you see him again. I know I'm sitting on about 9-2. I would take that then out, like kind of thing, just to if he was back.
Yeah, you need to see it now. You need to see an entry, wouldn't you? At least just to kind of reassure you a little bit. That's for sure.
Yeah, the big dog won the Troy Town in good fashion. Actually, another really competitive handicap. Some eye catchers in behind. What caught your eye out the Troy Town on Sunday?
I liked how Lifetime Ambition run. Second, just kind of bungled the last, and it cost him the race. There's definitely a big pot in him, and the big dog won it well. I didn't think he was going to be mapped out for this race. I think he kind of Irish national. He keeps pulling them out the files. Peter Faggy, he does well with those type of horses and maximises every kind of potential. He surprised me in the day. I thought they might target something further down the line in the season with him, but it was a good performance. He's a very solid operator, and yeah, the Gordon Elliott battalion didn't quite fire, did they?
One horse that Gordon Elliott has that I think he overrated him at the start of his career, but he's done some service for them's Death Duty. He's always in the mix.
It was interesting that Davy Russell picked him and was on him. You just look at him and think, just not that well handicapped, is he? I don't think he is. I think he will need some help from the handicapper to win a race of that nature. But there's no doubt he's found something. His old sparkle back. He's a very highly touted horse back in the day. I think he was a very warm order for an Albert Bartlett on RSA, wasn't he? He was very
well fancied for the Albert Bartlett.
Albert Bartlett, wasn't it? Yeah. He was kind of well fancied for an Ultimate. He runs. He will run. He's the type of horse that will run his race now, but without really shaping, like winning too much, and thinking he's a bit of help from the handicapper.
Yeah, absolutely. Phil Dor beat San Ra, quite a good beginner's chase actually. Phil Dor looked as if he took to fence as well. San Ra, I thought was the same, fluffed the last, but he was giving out £8 to Phil Dor, so I think these are two potential. I know you said last week about San Ra. This was a good beginner's chase actually.
And St. Ra's been unmoved in the market of that. Again, I think I kind of had that opinion going into the race, and it's the same going out of it. Not too sure. I think Phil Dor, he might need a bit further in an Arkle, but he clearly jumps well. It was a truly run race. There was no hiding place, but he was race fit, unlike St. Wa, and the 4-year-old allowance is always going to be useful coming in there. So it was pretty attritional. They would do well to kind of come round and reaffirm that at Christmas, I believe. 12-1 Phil Dor, 12-1 Banbridge. I'd back Banbridge. Yeah, I think Banbridge might have a bit more speed, weirdly enough.
I think Phil Dor. I did think Phil Dor could potentially win for it.
Yeah, he was going to progress over fences.
Yeah, it could be a turn. It could be a turnless horse actually if they step on the trip. I think they're going to take advantage of it. They'd be crazy not to take advantage of his allowance at Christmas. I know that's.
Yeah, and they will. That's what they will do. They tried it to a decent kind of level of success with River de Terre last year. They'll try and do the same. I think Phil Dor's better than that, and he always promised to be a chaser, really, in the long run.
Yeah, Zambella won at Carlisle, beat Riviera de Tel, who the aforementioned, who was really poor actually. I just don't know what's going on with her. Zambella was 4th last year in the Mayor's Chase. Is she rightfully sitting about 16s? Because I think, although she's honest enough, I think she's going to find 2 or 3 always better than her in that big stage.
Yeah, probably the case. She's improved because she wasn't racing over 3 miles last time out, which was, she doesn't quite see that out. She's always travelled well. She jumps pretty efficiently. Yeah, she's a solid yardstick for that division. But when the top races come along, she's more than likely to be found out. 16s, you can see her running well 4th or 5th maybe. But I think there's some potential new contenders in that division that might be a bit too hot. As for River de Tell, I think a 4-year-old mare coming out of novice company just is not handling it at the moment, and her jumping's always a little bit wayward, and you won't get away with that in open company, and that's been what's happening.
No, certainly not. Leicester, a horse to mention, a horse I quite took my eye the last time when he was beaten at Cheltenham. Perseus Way won by 24 lengths, very keen, but sitting about 25 to the Triumph. He's a promising horse. I have said from, I think, the start, that race at Chepstow, that I think is the finale now a grade 2? I thought it was always a grade 1.
I think it might be demoted, yeah.
Yeah, but he could be one for that.
He could be. Could also be maybe one. I can see him running off a big weight well in a Fred Winter as well.
Possibly, yeah.
If it rains, he likes some nice cut in the ground, I'd imagine. Yeah, I think there'll be ones better from Ireland, but he likes like going up to Haydock and things like that. He'll do pretty well, I'd imagine.
Yeah. Final horse to mention on Tuesday at Punchestown was Sandor Clegane. 1 by 12 lengths, travelled well. Just looked like he was crying out for a step up and trip. This is a horse that was doing okay over bumpers, but always looked as if he needed further. I think he's found his level. I think he's found it. 3 miles over hurdles could be the future for him.
Solid 3-mile novice hurdler, and there are so many of these that look like coming out of the champion bumper, and he was one of them. Great for Paul Nolan. He's had a very tough time of it with his lad unwell. Nice having the one that's kind of delivered on that promise. Beaten by 3 Car Bragg last time out, and then has clearly improved from that very nicely to win that. Probably a pretty decent race. The band driving Duvan hasn't fired at all, is he?
He was a bit of a hype horse, wasn't he? He was coming in with a lot of
the hype bumper, the price tag and stuff like that. I never really liked. I did have my suspicions about him, but no, I think Sandor Clegane is definitely one of several horses like that. You could back 6 or 7 now, but Bartlett here at 16, 20, 25, 33 to 1. That you can envisage being there. I think that's the strongest kind of overall novice shape that you're getting. All the superstars are kind of in the 2 miles.
Yeah.
Very solid, reliable type. He'll go on improving, and there will be something in Ireland definitely for him as well. It's a grade 1.
I wouldn't rule him out for anything at that. I thought I was so impressed with him on Tuesday. Big recap this week, and that's us. We'll move on to what's coming up. We'll take a look at what's coming up. A really busy weekend. 5 grade 1s to talk about and a couple of grade 2s. We'll start on Friday at Sandown. We have the Ballymore Winter Novices Hurdle. I've just got the declarations here. There's been 6 entered. There's been 6 declared. Henry II, Henry's Friend. I'd like to know Man at Work, Maximilian and Park this one. What catches your eye in that race?
Henry II is the most interesting horse in terms of how he's going to bounce back from last time. Because I think there's serious promise there. It's always kind of highly regarding the bumper, and he kind of flopped. I'm interested to see. I don't think I'd have a bet in it, but I'd be most interested in him if he was a decent enough price.
Yeah, Maximilian's 4 out of 4 so far this year. He's been quite good. Yeah, he's progressive. I think that could be. I could maybe have a wee play in Maximilian. Saturday we'll start at Aintree. We have the Many Clouds Chase. Ahoy Senor going back to Aintree. 7-4. I don't think he'll be 74 on the day. I think the gamble will come for him. I think he could be rock solid in that race if it all goes to plan.
Expect him to win. It's kind of do or die, isn't it? In terms of breed. This will suit for sure. Just a big baby, really. He's in the first race, so Brave Man's Game blew him away. He doesn't like being pestered for the lead. It's interesting to see what they'll do. Will they try and restrain him, or will they just kind of let him go out and do his own thing again? I think he'll probably go out, try and make all, and I think he will. I think he will win, but it's an important day for this kind of Gold Cup project, because if he doesn't win this and he runs similar to the opening, then some kind of niggling questions become like major doubts about him. Full of ability, he's just got to start translating it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think this is do or die for Ahoy Senior. Sandown, we've got 2 Grade 1s. We have the Henry VIII Novices Chase, and we will see the return of John Bon. He's 4-9 at the moment. Boot Hill's 15-8. Montmoral, I don't know if I think Montmoral has been declared. 8-1. Unexpected Party, and Jane Williams horse at 100-1. John Bon should just sweep up, shouldn't he?
He should. Interesting about Boot Hill. Might be a good race to kind of make sure that you're miles behind John Bon and get a even better mark for the future, or try and find out where you are at the level of the graded company. So it's ideal for him. I think he'll be second. I think John Bon will win, and I think he'll look very impressive in doing so. But we'll question what on earth has he beat, and yeah, if he shortens again for an Arkle,
he's going to shorten, isn't he? Even if he wins, he's going to shorten.
What do you shorten to?
Evens?
No way.
I wouldn't personally, but I can see.
Before?
I just can see this Henderson bandwagon just keep going, and I think it certainly has an influence on bookies, because they're certainly like Jet Powered shortened immediately.
Oh yeah, you can see it for a mile, and that's why they're very protective of it, and rightfully so to a certain point, but not to that certain point, because I think there's 4 or 5, at least 4 or 5 decent Irish horses.
You look at the entries at Christmas in that Grade 1 over 2 miles. There's 4 or 5 of them that would give John Bon a race over hurdles. So if they can translate that to fences, it could be. I don't think he's a 74 shot. Yeah,
his reputation carries him a long way, and he's just going to keep racking up the wins before meeting probably significantly stronger opposition, because there's not even kind of a 150, 155 rated kind of chaser here, or 140, 145 rated hurler that's kind of improving for a fence and novice company against him. It's just nothing. There is not a lot of depth, but contrastingly, in Ireland, I think there is a fair few, and we haven't seen any of Willie Mullins's 2 mile novice chasers yet.
Really. We certainly haven't.
So, I think it's short enough, because it's not really factoring in some decent Irish types.
Yeah, the Tingle Creek, obviously the big Grade 1 over 2 miles, Greenatine's favourite. I think this is the only horse I would say that's Edward Stone's been declared, but I would treat him with caution. Shishkin, obviously it all depends on if he's fit and the ground. I think we'll maybe save Shishkin until maybe the day. Gentleman Demise entered, interesting. This is very hard to predict because we do not know what's going to turn up.
Well, I've had a little bit of jiggery pokery Monday night about it. Grenadine should be favourite for this race regardless. Shishkin's come out. I mean, there's a lot of questions to ask. I mean, you can't forget what happened to Shishkin in Championship. Yeah. You cannot. I mean, he's got a lot to kind of come over. It's not just kind of a seasonal debut, everything's fine, dandy. You can't forget what happened there. Grenadine loves Sandown. He looked like an improved figure last time out. He was tense and need the run, but he looked better. He looked sharper. Paul Nichols said that this horse is working extremely well all the time. He's going to improve for that. At Sandown, where he's 3 for 4 and he plunders every week, he should have been favourite. I saw 2-1 Monday night. I did take some of that. I did take some of the 20s in Captain Guinness. There's also a decent chance that Edwardstone and Shishkin won't even turn up.
If Shishkin runs well, if Shishkin say finishes 2 lengths behind Greenatine, would you back him for the champion chase?
No, because Energamin's in the champion chase, and I think he's going to win it. Shishkin could even win. You'd still think Energamin is probably still might be the rightful favourite. You need to kind of see the temperament. You need to see kind of the spark. If he's definitely, if it's without effusive, if he's back and everything's grand and fine, then yeah, you all of a sudden definitely be considering. But he's already like what, fours with Champions
Yeah, I
League?
mean he's a bit tighter now, but
You cannot touch him at all at the moment. Just in the back of what happened and what might and might not happen here in regards of is he going to turn up? I don't think he will. I think he'll wait for Desert Orchid. I think that's. I think that is probably the plan anyway. I don't understand why they keep talking about it, trying to kind of get him there.
yeah,
And why you put pressure on yourself to kind of get him there by being so publicly open about it. I don't quite understand that. The Clarence House, other option. Yeah, there won't be any rush, and if it's not right, then we know how it ends.
yeah. I'm not totally convinced that Shishton's going to turn up. Edward Stone, I would give him maybe a chance. I'm not totally convinced that Greenatine's an out and out Grade 1 winner. I think he's. I don't think he's that. I don't think he's a star potentially.
Stand down. Edwardson certainly isn't. Grenadine will hammer Edwardson.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
It's going to be
that Arkle form's rubbish. I think Edwardson will be found out at this level. Why he's constantly, not running. I don't think Alan King's horses at the start of the season are particularly in good form either. I don't think he's got a. I think Captain Guinness might even beat him if he runs.
It's a big call. I'm leaving this race alone until the declaration and probably an hour before the race. But I can't have a bet yet. Fairy House with 3 Grade 1s to mention. The first one, the Royal Bond. Champ Kiley, 11-10, favourite. Marine Nationale for the Connells at 9-4. The likes of Irish Point, Hercule de Sol in the pocket that you quite like. Polo Lounge is there as well. Could be a proper Grade 1. Champ Kiley, are you thinking he's the real deal?
He could be. I'll try and get him beat. He's only Willie Mullins' horse of a high profile. It was seen novice company. He entered the Mayor Ashrow Diamond as well.
Yeah.
I like In the Pocket and I like Path the Route, and those are the two that'll be backing. I think it's a hot little race. This.
Yeah, it is that.
Yeah, I think it could be plundered from someone out with Mullins and Elliott in this race. I think they'll be more forward. In the Pocket and Path to Roof for me.
It could be, yeah. We'll move into the Drinmore. We've got 3 Gordon Elliott horses entered here. 3 Stripe Live, Hollow Games, Mighty Potter. Banbridge is entered as well. You've got El Barra, who I quite like. This could be an open Drinmore.
It's a good race as well. It looks better than it was in last year's.
Certainly last year, yeah.
I could do the rerun in this, so Banbridge. I wouldn't take it as gospel that Banbridge will be going turners as a result of winning or placing in a Drinmore, for instance. Yeah, it's interesting to see what Gordon Elliott will run here. Maybe not 3 Stripe Life, maybe the other 2. Definitely expect Mighty Potter to be there. Yeah, it's a good race. Again, just have to wait and see who we are. I'll probably have to end up back in Banbridge. I quite like it.
Yeah, I think probably Mighty Potter just edges it for me. We will move into the Hatton's Grace. Honeysuckle is due back. She looks as if she might just have to beat Classical Dream to win. I think she'll take care of everything else comfortably. Classical Dream, I'm not even sure if he'll run or not. I'm excited to see Honeysuckle, and should she just win?
Yeah, you'd expect her to. Usually first time out's the way you try, maybe get her beat. Classical Dream can go well fresh, it's dangerous, flexible in terms of the trip, so it's not without a chance. But I just expect the winning machine to keep winning. Will it affect the champion hurdle market that much? I'm not too sure, to be honest, because I mean, Constitution Hill just gave you the impression that that's unstoppable, kind of thing. And even with such respect to Honeysuckle's record, and you shouldn't be ruling anything out. And she's an unbeaten champion and proven, and she's done absolutely nothing wrong. You do think that what on earth could possibly beat Constitution Hill at the moment? That was such the visual impression that you got.
Yeah, I mean it's obviously we want to see her make it 17 out of 17, but I think she'll have it her own way. I think she'll win comfortably. Any other eye catching entries over the weekend? Anything catching your eye?
Allegory Devasses in chasing entry. I think that's kind of been highly anticipated. Any Willie Mullins novice really that's probably interesting. With the view of Cheltenham coming down the line. So the Phoenix can be great. I think the Royal Bond's going to be a very good race. Yeah, and I think Sandown might be quite good as well. The Tingle Creek kind of up in the air, but certainly intriguing. Yeah, it's going to be a good weekend, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be a good weekend, and we'll move into our Ante Post selections. We are going to now have an Ante Post pick each. We didn't have one last week with an eye catcher, but we do have a pick to add to our list this week. I'm going to start with you, Calum. What is your Ante Post pick for the week?
Yeah, at long last, found a bit of a bet. It's 40-1 to win any race at the Cheltenham Festival. It's 3-car Bragg.
Okay.
Now, it's form last time out when it won second and third. Both subsequently won at Punchestown yesterday. Sandor Cleggan, very eye-catching. And the other one got it in the steers room over the big Doyen.
Yeah.
Won that race, which is race going to Hunter's Yarn get pipped.
Mm-hmm.
Those two mains look strong, so there's a bit of substance to that form. 3-car Bragg was third in a wee little warm race. He was staying on best at the end, which implied that he needs 2.5 miles. He jumps really well, jumps really efficiently. There's not a lot of holes he can pick with him. He might want a little bit cut in the ground. He missed his weekend engagement with the American Mike race because he had a week and a setback. He does have an entry. Did have an entry in the Royal Bond anyway, but I don't think we'll take that up either. But I can see this horse either being a genuine Ballimore type if American Mike doesn't come back, or a potential long-term Martin Pipe handicap plot in Gordon Elliott. Run it over 2 miles, continue to shape well, be a bit outpaced, go to Martin Pipe off a decent mark. So I think that's open to him as well. That's why you back in any race really. I think 14-1 would be generous in either if he turned up. But I just think he's a very interesting horse going forward. And Max McNeil's always like a very kind of open, so you won't be in the dark about him.
No, you certainly won't.
Also, I mean, you will know where you stand with him, and that's kind of a bit of a good reassuring thing as well.
Yeah, I couldn't argue with that. I think he could potentially be an exciting horse for the future. My tip is a 7-1 pick in the Triumph Hurdle. I am taking this with the potential that this horse potentially runs on Sunday at Fairyhouse. She has entered, and it is Lossiemouth for the Mullins team. I know I'm buying a favourite. Don't shout at me. A short price favourite we haven't seen yet, but if you've seen her run in France, you know she can jump. She can jump really well. She might be potentially too short for the Triumph Hurdle, but if she takes her run up on Sunday and wins that, she's not going to be 7-1. I did do a bit of digging in this horse and asked somebody in the team what they thought about her, and they said she could be the next big thing. Considering the next big thing that team's had, I would take that and trust that she could potentially be a bit special. I'm obviously taking it that if she runs on Sunday, she could still be 7-1 by the end of Sunday if she doesn't run. But if she's not and she wins comfortably, she could be half that price, and she could certainly be potentially a good one for the future. She's certainly being aimed towards a Triumph Hurdle. Lossiemouth.
Yeah, we had this last year with Vauban, wasn't it? That impression was striking. So yeah, it could be a good bit of pinching. Interesting that a similar line probably in the Champion Bumper with Chapeau du Soleil.
Yeah.
Eights, not been overly impressed with Elliott's bumper types. Maybe nicking a bit of 8-10-1 there beforehand might be sensible because he might be Mullins' kind of best hope there, and in the same with Lossiemouth, yeah, a very kind of well kind of regarded type. You can see that happening. We've seen some decent runs on the Triumph, so I mean, she blows him away, then it'd be particularly impressive because it's a warm race that's been introduced, which is probably a sign of confidence as well.
Yeah, I think it'd be very telling if they run on a graded race straight away. Like that would be a first run because they seem to have a lot of faith that she could be special. So I'm taking it, trust that she is. And we've finally got a pick on the board after we're lucky 15, and that will wrap us up for this week's show. I want to thank Calum for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thanks again. Already looking forward to the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too as well. It's going to be a fascinating weekend. Please send your questions in below. Me and Calum will answer them on the show. And if you do have a question, then you can send it in social media as well, like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the usual places. Thanks very much, everyone that's tuned in. Please follow us on social media, and you'll see more consistent National Hunt coverage. And subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels every week for the show until March. Thanks very much. We'll see you soon. Cheers.